Hi and welcome to Oceania Weekly. I'm Stephanie Greenfield. Nearly 140 bushfires are raging in the Australian state of New South Wales, with the most severe burning in Sydney. Footage of one Sydney blaze shows firefighters running quickly away as the flames spread rapidly and suddenly. Officials warned that many parts of the city would be blanketed with smoke. At least 4 people have been killed and more than 400 homes have been destroyed since the fires broke out across Australia in early November. Bushfires continue to rage in New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia and Queensland. The fires are also worsening Sydney's pollution problem. The New South Wales capital has already reached number 19 on the Air Visual Global Rankings of cities with the worst air pollution, putting it ahead of Shanghai and Mumbai. As of 2021, food scraps across Auckland will be collected kerbside in an effort to reduce the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Auckland Council has announced a 20-year partnership with EcoGas to process the food scraps instead of sending them to landfill. Food scraps currently make up close to half the weight of the average Auckland household's rubbish bin. An aerobic digestion will be used to process food scraps to naturally enrich the soil and heat greenhouses to grow food year-round. That method is already used around the world, and EcoGas will bring successful models to New Zealand. The Morrison government's desire to block resettled refugees from ever setting foot in Australia stands as the major stumbling point from New Zealand taking 150 people currently caught in offshore detention. While New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern insists that's a matter for Australia, Deputy Winston Peters is not going to sacrifice hard-won equality for Kiwis. The contradiction from the two leaders at the heart of New Zealand's government comes as they wait to learn whether Australia will pick up the long-mooted offer. The resettlement deal for refugees in Papua New Guinea and Nauru was first struck by then Prime Ministers Julia Gillard and John Key in 2013, but never utilised. Australia Prime Minister Scott Morrison has denied the deal, but is leaving the door open for Kiwi resettlement at long last. New Zealand's national airline says it is trialling edible coffee cups in a bid to reduce the amount of waste on board its planes. The cups, by local company Twice, are made from vanilla-flavoured biscotti and are apparently leak-proof. Air New Zealand, which serves more than 8 million cups of coffee a year, said it wanted to reduce the amount of waste sent to the landfills. In a statement, Air New Zealand said the coffee cups were being tested in the air and on the ground as part of its efforts to find innovative ways to meet sustainability challenges. In the UK, some 2.5 billion coffee cups are estimated to be thrown away each year, and only 0.25% of them are recycled. A new study has said that an estimated 570,000 hermit crabs have been killed after being trapped in plastic debris. The researchers said piles of plastic on beaches create physical barriers and deadly traps for the crabs. The study looked at strawberry hermit crabs populations on 2 remote tropical island locations. The scientists say more research is needed to know how plastic pollution is affecting wildlife populations worldwide, especially on land. The researchers surveyed sites on the Cocos Islands in the Indian Ocean and Henderson Island in the South Pacific. They say both locations are littered with millions of pieces of plastic. The New Zealand government will provide funding to support South Canterbury farmers affected by the recent heavy rain and flooding, while the farming community is also rallying to help out. Agriculture Minister Damien O'Connor has declared a medium-scale adverse event for the district, which will see up to $50,000 in funding made available to support farming communities. He said that 2 weeks of solid rain has resulted in severe disruption, putting tremendous pressure on our farmers, and they need to know the government is there to support them. Ministry for Primary Industries field staff, who have been providing advice and assistance on the ground, have yet to determine the full extent of the loss and damage. Extreme rain causing flooding and washouts have forced evacuations in Canterbury and the closure of major sections of highway across the South Island. A state of emergency has been declared in the Timaru district. Skyline Chief Executive Jeff McDonald says that Skyline Enterprises, who opened their first $20 million South Korean track in 2017, tasted the thrill of the luge in Rotorua. Korea is New Zealand's 8th largest trading partner, with two-way goods and services trade worth $4.9 billion in the year to June. New Zealand exported goods to South Korea were valued at $1.8 billion in 2019, with wood, meat, dairy and edible offal counted as the top traded items. A free trade agreement with South Korea was signed in 2015. The key win in the deal was the lifting of tariffs on an estimated 98% of exports, particularly agriculture. Analysis of the deal at the time expected tariffs would be lifted on some $793 million worth of exported goods. Zespri Chief Grower and Alliances Officer Dave Courtney says Korea is now the fruits exporter's 5th largest market by value, with sales of $167 million in the 2019 financial year, up from around $100 million in 2015. Air New Zealand's first flight back to the Korean capital was carrying an almost full cargo load of both perishable and dry cargo. The airline's return trip saw the cargo hold completely full. New Zealand-based Koreans are estimated to number about 40,000. The San Francisco Opera announced that South Korean conductor Kim Eun-sun will take the position of the opera company's music director starting from the 1st of August 2021. The San Francisco Opera, which was established 96 years ago in 1923, is considered to be one of the top 2 opera companies in the US, along with the Metropolitan Opera House in New York. With the recent announcement, Kim will be the first female director of an opera house in North America. The initial contract period is 5 years, and she will conduct up to 4 operas per season. The South Korean conductor showcased her San Francisco Opera debut performance with Rushalka, an opera by Antonin Dvorak, in June this year. She worked as an assistant conductor for globally renowned Daniel Barenboim and Kirill Petrenko, and as a conductor at major European opera houses, including the Washington National Opera and the Houston Grand Opera. The New Zealand government says it will phase out more single-use plastics after welcoming a report on dealing with plastic waste that was presented to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's Chief Science Advisor, Juliet Gerard, presented Jacinda Ardern with a report called Rethinking Plastics in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Professor Gerard is calling for better collection of data on plastics to guide decision-making and seeks further study on the impact plastics have on the environment and human health. She also wants innovative ideas for the recycling and disposal of plastics. She said that everything we use has an impact on the environment, so we don't want to just go out and replace plastics with a different material that may result in worse outcomes. Many New Zealanders, including children, are concerned with its proliferation over the past decade and the mounting waste ending up in our oceans. Thank you for joining us at Oceania Weekly. I'll see you next week.